Hare Krishna, everyone. Just give me 1 minute. um, Very warm welcome to you all. Good morning, Hare Krishna. Today's topic is going to be Dharma versus religion, because there's a lot of nuance and difference there that is very often lost. Excuse me. Let's give everybody a few minutes to join. So we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. That's through StreamYard. They've updated their system. Welcome to everybody. Good morning. Hare Krishna. Forgive me for not doing the sessions the last 2 weekends. I was away. One weekend we were at a Sanskrit Shibiram here in Loughborough, UK, put on by the Sanskrit Bharati UK group. It was a 3-day camp kind of retreat for spoken Sanskrit Sambhashanam, which was amazing. Highly recommend it to anybody who's interested in learning spoken Sanskrit. They do it every year during the Easter holidays. Welcome to you all. Today's topic is Dharma versus religion. Why a devotee or a Sanatani could never wage a war on the basis of religion. Why am I choosing this very, very particular, very strange topic? It's not something I usually talk about, but the elections are coming up and it's hard to escape the politics. And I was wondering, why is the Western media, why is the West so afraid of Modi? Why are they afraid of the Hindutva, the fanatical Hindu? And I just wanted to address it because, in our understanding, there is no such thing as a fanatical Hindu, or there shouldn't be. So we're going to understand the nuances of how that's an oxymoron. You cannot be a fanatical Hindu. You could never impose your faith or religion on anyone else, because that's literally, antithetical to Hinduism itself. Or well, some people don't like the term Hindu, so we use Sanatani, or you can say devotee. The reason why I'm addressing it is because I would like to dispel the fear that so many people might have that, oh, Modi is a religious leader. He's, identifies as being a Hindu, so eventually he's going to turn into something fanatic and he's going to start oppressing everybody else, and the Muslims are going to be in trouble in India. Just wanted to let people know that I don't think that can ever be a possibility. And we're going to discuss why on the basis of the Bhagavad Gita, our understanding of Dharma. And I must say it is quite nuanced. I've only clocked on to this recently in the last couple of years, even though I've been hearing and studying the Bhagavad Gita for my whole life. Because Sanskrit is such a deep, beautiful, complex, and yet simple language that there's so many words that do not get translated into English. And therefore, a lot of the times, if you ask somebody, what does dharma mean? They can't actually describe it. You take a moment. What do you think dharma means? If you say religion, it's actually not appropriate. It doesn't fully encompass the vast depth of what Dharma is trying to actually convey. Before we get into that, let me actually say my prayers. I forgot last time. I would like to seek the blessings of our gurus, especially Srila Prabhupada, who's given us all of this wealth of knowledge. Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The point is to not just state opinions, but to hopefully convey that which we have learned through our gurus, our guides and teachers, and through the scriptures, actually base it in a real understanding of Dharma. So, like I was saying earlier, Dharma is not just, actually, you can't even translate it as a religion. You cannot say, that's why we add the word Sanatana in front of Dharma, because most of the time, Dharma refers to just our individual duties. Most of the time, it refers to your Swadharma, which actually varies depending on who you are, depending on whether you're a woman or a man or a celibate, single person or married or sannyasi. There's so many different Swadharmas. And generally, Dharma can loosely translate to your duty, that which will nurture, nourish, sustain you, that your kind of material identity in one sense, your swadharma, your jati dharma, kula dharma, those kind of dharmas have to do with your innate identity within this material body. So it actually is something that is material. It doesn't translate to your religion per se, unless you add the word Sanatana in front of it. We'll get into that more a little bit later. Meaning that most of the dharmas refer to your obligation towards society, in your family life, in all the different roles that you play. What are you meant to do? What is your identity and what propels you? What is your purpose in this life? Without that, there's no framework. Dharma can mean purpose, it can mean your material identity, it can mean your duties, but actually translating it word for religion is not accurate. Why? Why do I say this? Because most people think that the Bhagavad Gita starts with the word dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, and Krishna is talking about dharma to religion, to Arjuna, and therefore the Bhagavad Gita is a religious text. And therefore, Krishna is asking Arjuna to fight a religious war. This could not be further than the truth. And this is the misconception that we need to really clarify. I can say that even after hearing from the Bhagavad Gita for about 35, 40 years, only in the last couple of years have I really clocked on to the difference. Why Dharma is not your religion. Your Dharma is not a religion. Why? Because Dharma is based in action. What do you do? And the normal understanding of religion is an ideology and what you believe in. They are actually incompatible. Dharma is your innate identity, that which propels your action, that which guides what you are meant to do in this life. It is subjective in one sense. Of course, Krishna establishes dharma, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So in that sense, it's not subjective, but it depends on who you are. So it's not subjective. I take that back. It doesn't just depend on your opinion. It depends on who you are. It differs from person to person. It is objective because it is established by God himself, but he doesn't establish it as an ideology that represents him. I might be losing some of you. The reason why I'm mentioning the difference is that dharma is rooted in your identity and your action and your purpose in this life, whereas religion loosely translates to what you believe in, your ideology about the so-called reality of who you think God is and what your path to God is. That has to do with your belief system. It has to do with your faith. Dharma doesn't have to do with that. I'm trying to separate that because it really, really needs to be highlighted that when Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight for dharma, he is telling Arjuna to fight for that which is right and versus wrong, for fighting against evil of Duryodhan, not fighting against Duryodhan because he did not believe in what Arjuna believed in. It was not a war of belief systems. It was not about believing in Krishna. Krishna never tells Arjuna, fight because you believe in me. Fight against Duryodhan because Duryodhan does not believe in me. This is very, very, very important, and it's kind of subtle. I hope I'm being able to share the nuance here. What does religion actually mean? Let's go back to the basics. Religion comes from the Latin root of religare. Religare means to bind or join. So the original term religion had nothing to actually do with a belief system or believing in some kind of a reality and then amassing like kind of followers to uh, believe in the same thing. Nowadays, religion has become a belief, an ideology. And unfortunately, because of the Abrahamic conditioning of what religion is, everyone has a really, really bad view of religion. They think that the idea, of, let me get back to the closest word to religion first, and I'll come back to this. There is no word in Sanskrit that can directly be equated to religion. The closest thing to religare or to bind is yoga. Yoga means to connect, to have union with, to join, to link, to bind with, I guess. And the idea of yoga is to reconnect yourself with the Supreme Self, the Atma with the Paramatma, or to understand the non-duality between the little spirit that you are and the Supreme Spirit. Meaning the word samadhi comes close, where you are one with the Supreme Spirit, to become in union with the ultimate reality, absolute truth, God, whatever you want to call it. Now, this is really, really important because when you read the Bhagavad Gita, how many different yogas are described? If anyone knows, just off the top of your head, think of the different yoga systems that Krishna describes to Arjuna. He begins with karma yoga, maybe buddhi yoga, he begins with dhyana yoga, ashtanga yoga, jnana yoga, and finally he describes bhakti yoga. The reason, I'm not going to get into the details of each of the yoga systems because that could be a session on its own for sure. But the point I'm trying to make is, how can one God describe so many religions if that's the closest word? If yoga is the closest word to religion, why would Krishna describe 7, 8 different types of yogas? Because he's not interested in what you believe in or whether you believe in him or not. He doesn't actually care. He offers that as an option, as the highest and the best option. He does say the best yoga, in my opinion, is bhakti yoga. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmanah shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayukta tamomatah. I proclaim that the highest yoga system is that in which the person worships me with full faith and devotion, and always thinks of me. That is the highest yoga system. He does say that again and again. He comes back to bhakti yoga throughout the whole discourse of the Bhagavad Gita. But he says there's so many paths. If you don't want bhakti yoga, if you're not interested in me as a person, God, if you're more interested in the impersonal energy that represents the supreme architect, the supreme intelligence, that's fine. You can worship the all-expansive, impersonal Brahman aspect, which most of the world actually, most people are attracted to the impersonal idea of a supreme intellect, supreme energy. But that's also Krishna. That's the yogi. That's the dhyana yogi. They're already under the umbrella of Sanatana Dharma. Another interesting thing is that there's no such word as atheist in Sanatana Dharma. Why? Because it doesn't matter whether you believe in a personal God or not. The problem with Abrahamic religions is that they only have one option. You either believe in this person God or our version of God, or you are out of our little group. And it becomes really difficult to coexist with someone who believes there's only one way. There's only one way or the highway. You cannot coexist with those people because, we've experienced it so many times. We'll be on Rath Yatra in Venice Beach in Los Angeles doing our beautiful Sanatana Dharma festival, and you'll have the fanatic Christians on the side saying that accept Jesus Christ or you're going to be condemned and damned eternally in hell. Accept Jesus Christ your Savior, otherwise there's no other path. Similarly, in Islam, any Abrahamic religion will espouse the same, that if you do not accept Allah as the supreme, you are a kafir and you deserve to be condemned and you will be damned eternally. So these are two incompatible ideologies. The beauty of Sanatana Dharma is you could be an atheist and still be accepted. I mean, a so-called atheist, because actually there is no such thing as a complete non-believer. Everybody believes in something. They just don't believe in your ideology, and therefore we call them non-believers. But in Sanskrit and Sanatana Dharma, there is no such word for that kind of atheist. There is Nastika and Astika. Those words refer to somebody who believes in the Vedas or doesn't believe in the Vedas or the supremacy of the Vedas. That's what that refers to. It has nothing to do with God and the supreme destination or what's going to happen to you after this life. This is very, very important nuance, because when you segregate society between like believers and non-believers, it is really difficult again to coexist, is it not? And then we create so much discontent and hatred and fear amongst each other. But the beauty is that even someone who does not believe in a personal God in Sanatana Dharma could be accepted as a yogi. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second chapter of the second canto so beautifully describes the path of the attached and the detached yogi. The attached yogi does not even have a concept of who God is until he reaches Sishumar, like beyond the Svarga region. The reason why I say this is because you do not have to accept any concept of any God to actually progress, to raise your consciousness to a level of liberation. Isn't that absolutely incredible? There's no requirement as such for, you guys okay? Well, okay. Thanks, Prabhu. What was I going to get at? Yes. So Sanatana Dharma does not require one to believe in a form of God. Arjuna actually asks Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Krishna, should I worship you as a person? Or should I worship you as this energy God that you've just shown me? You've shown me your Virat Roop, the mountains and the oceans and the universes and all devouring time and this really kind of scary vision of your supreme power. Should I worship this impersonal, avyakta form of yours? Because both are an option. Krishna says, well, both. You can do both, but I'll tell you what, if you worship me in my personal form, it's a lot easier and a lot more joyful, because that's the beauty of a person God. You get to have a relationship. The supreme energy and intellect is non-different to the person God. The only benefit of having that relationship is that you actually enjoy. You get the benefit of that person's help, because in the impersonal sphere, there's no help coming from that person God. Krishna says, when you surrender to me, then I will carry what you have and provide what you lack. I will top up your inadequacy. So that's where the personal help, mercy, love, enjoyment comes in the person God. But it's not a hard and fast rule. You don't have to accept that. If you wish to just, you're not so sure, you don't want to accept Krishna as a supreme person in the form that he is, sure, worship, the mountains and the energy and the intellect of the universe and the supreme power. That's fine. That's absolutely acceptable, and you'll still be considered a Sanatana Dharmi as long as you're trying to establish that yoga, that union and connection with the supreme reality. That is a must. You must be endeavoring. In the bare minimum, you should be trying to progress on this yogic path. Could be meditative yogi, could be ashtanga, meaning the asanas and the yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, all those steps. You could be a karma yogi. You just do your duty without any attachment to the results and offer those results to the supreme, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it doesn't get more all-encompassing and accepting and loving than the safety net that Krishna provides in the Bhagavad Gita. So, coming back to the point that under no circumstances does Krishna tell Arjuna to fight for what he believes in. I want to repeat that because it's so important. This is the fear that the West has of Narendra Modi ji, of India, that, oh, well, he's spiritual, he's Hindu, so therefore eventually he's going to impose his belief on all the other beliefs. But that cannot happen. If you are a true Sanatani, you will never, ever fight against someone else's belief. You will fight on the basis of Dharma. So, yes, the war that Krishna almost implores Arjuna to fight is a fight against, goodness against evil. Literally against what is wrong. Fight for righteousness. Fight for truth, honesty. Fight against greed, hatred, envy. Duryodhana he was dishonest. He was greedy. He was hateful. He was oppressive. He actually tried to kill the Pandavas. So there's an objective right and wrong there. It doesn't matter whether he was Muslim or Hindu or Christian. We're not condemning Duryodhana for his belief system. We are condemning Duryodhana for his actions. This is so important because it really does highlight that your actions are far more important than your belief system. Actually, we may say we believe in God, but if our actions are not in harmony with that belief system, your actions will count more than your faith. No Sanatani, no devotee will ever be able to justify their actions, their adharmic actions, in the name of their belief in God. I hope that makes sense. This is very important. Your adharma can never be negated simply because of your faith in God. Because we cannot judge each other for your belief system. We can only judge each other based on our actions. This is really important. I hope I'm making this clear. If anyone has any questions, can I go into the comment box so that I can... oh, wow, I missed all these comments. Okay, maybe that was good because it's a bit distracting. Okay, I'll come back to this later. So many comments. Okay, coming back to what I wanted to say. I want to just make sure I've gotten all these points across. Okay, so coming back to Dharma. Why Arjuna is fighting for Dharma, what is right and wrong, not fighting against the faith in Krishna. So let's say about this verse. There's certain verses in the Bhagavad Gita that get quoted. So let's come back to yadahi dharmasya glanir. Whenever there is a decline in dharma, Krishna says, I come again and again. Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam. I come to annihilate the dushkritina, those who are miscreants, not the disbeliever. Very important. Krishna doesn't care what you believe in. You know why? You know why he doesn't care? Because beliefs can be of so many different levels. Beliefs are subjective. Krishna actually describes the different levels of Shraddha. He says you can have faith in the mode of goodness, faith in the mode of passion, faith in the mode of ignorance. Just like a child, when you're teaching in your classroom, a teacher has to prepare for so many different levels of understanding. How can a supreme, all-loving judge, God, how can he judge us for being inadequate in our understanding? That would be an oxymoron. That would be it would be lunacy. It would be ludicrous if God judged us based on what we believe in. A child cannot believe in doesn't have the same rational tools of logic and understanding and intellect as an adult. So what if a child dies and doesn't believe in Allah or Christ? What's going to happen to them? This is the reason why the world hates religion, because they have only experienced Abrahamic religions, which are fanatic in their belief system. And they believe that if you don't believe what they believe, you should be condemned, or you will be condemned, and somehow it's their responsibility to make sure you believe. It's like, oh my God, of course that's going to be a recipe for disaster. I went to watch this show, The Book of Mormon, for my birthday with my mother-in-law and my aunt-in-law. All the girls went, like 7 or 8 of us in London. We were like, oh, girls' night. We had no idea what we were getting into. Just for the record, it's a very crude and vulgar show. Not physically, but it is condemning God and religion. The whole show is just, it's a West End show, like in London, like a theater show. And I was kind of shocked. We didn't know what we were booking. I had some idea, and the reviews were like, great show. And so we just booked it. But the reason why I'm sharing is that the entire thing was such a mockery of God. And when I tried to pull myself back, in the beginning you think, oh my God, why are you condemning God? They're literally swearing at the idea of God, because what kind of God would create someone to be born, in complete poverty, who has no idea who Jesus or Allah is? And then what if the child dies before they ever hear the name of God? That randomness, it's totally illogical. So unless you have the idea of karma and reincarnation, you cannot justify a God. You can't. So when I pull myself back from trying to understand the logical arguments against Abrahamic religions, I thought actually it makes complete sense. When you hear a lot of the atheists, I follow them. Like, I actually have more respect for certain atheists than I do of fanatic Abrahamic believers, because at least there's some logical common sense to the arguments. Anyway. So one of my favorite comedians is a Ricky Gervais. He's hilarious and very logical, very rational, very intelligent. And he doesn't believe in God, but he would be condemned by all Abrahamic religions because he doesn't believe in God. But if he were to join Sanatana Dharma, Ricky Gervais would be what is called maybe a yogi, someone who doesn't accept the concept of a person God, because he proclaims, I'm a naturist. I believe in nature. I believe in the beauty and the power of nature. Well, guess what that is? Under Sanatana Dharma, that person would be considered let's say a jnana yogi or a dhyana yogi, if they were to take that path seriously, meaning you have to do the processes. You have to, have sense control and follow the yogic process. But they could very well fit into that. Like Sam Harris would most certainly be considered a jnana yogi, trying to understand the supreme absolute reality through his intellect. He would never be condemned in Sanatana Dharma to be a kafir or a blasphemer or someone who must be condemned and killed, for example, under Sanatana Dharma simply because he doesn't know or doesn't choose to believe in a person God. This is so important because I feel so much pain when I see how much pain we cause each other in the name of religious ideology. This is not allowed in Sanatana Dharma. We are not allowed to judge each other based on your belief system at all. Because for all we could know, we could all be wrong. You know, and we could, it's just so obvious that we are of different natures. We are of different gunas. We are under the prabhava of different characteristics and nuances and intellects and consciousnesses. So Krishna allows for all of that. He says, you, according to your desire, according to your actions, you can manifest your own reality. He is a supreme loving father. He gives us the concept of, he gives us the choice of karma and remaining in this sphere of activity, or liberating ourselves and reuniting with him. So, God, there's so many concepts to cover. I apologize for jumping around. Let me conclude the last point about why the world considers religion to be a disease. I actually agree with it. If all you have experienced is Western Abrahamic religions, then I can understand the pain, because we're waging wars on ideologies and belief systems. This whole Israel-Palestine thing, it is so absurd. It's so horrendous, but it must be pointed out that Palestinians actually do not believe that Israel has a right to exist. This is very important. Israel, according to the Palestinians and some, according to Hamas, Israel does not have a right to exist there because Jerusalem is also a holy place according to the Quran. So Muslims have a right to be there. Now, how can you coexist with someone who thinks you don't have the right to exist there in that form because of a belief system, because of what you believe in what's written in your book? That is absurd. That you think it's okay, you're going to continue to bomb them, and they're going to continue to bomb you. And then if for some miracle we stop it, then someone else will come and bomb them, because it's going to continue, because they believe in something and they're fighting for a belief. They're fighting, and so many people think, no, they're just fighting, they're trying to defend themselves. If they're trying to defend themselves, why did they bomb them in the first place? I've seen anyway, I don't know why, I'll make a separate video about this. There's so many videos of young children everywhere believing that, anyway, I'm not going to make this into Israel-Palestine thing. Coming back to, let me just understand whether I've, okay. So choice, obviously faith and ideology is a choice. Is dharma a choice? Yes and no, just as much as the argument of nurture and nature would go hand in hand. Dharma is established by God. He comes to establish it. We already know that. He says, I come to establish dharma. Why does he come to establish dharma? For our own benefit. So that which will sustain me as a female, 39-year-old mother of 4, wife, I have these roles that I've chosen. It's a choice. I have chosen to be in these roles, and according to what situation that I am in, I have a specific dharma to uphold that role. So God just comes to explain the dharmas and to make sure they're going. It's like the law of the land. You need the police and the judge to make sure everyone's following the law of the land, so everyone can thrive, so everyone can live peacefully and joyfully. That is the idea of dharma. That is the point of dharma. Dharma has nothing to do with what God gets out of us, honestly. All of the secondary dharmas, let's call them as the material dharmas, the Kula Dharma, Jati Dharma, Varna Dharmas, your Kshatriya Dharma, your Brahmana Dharma, those Varna Dharmas, or your Swadharmas. Those are all secondary material dharmas. Now, there is a paro dharma. Savai pumsam paro dharma. Yato bhakti radhokshaje. Krishna, in the Bhagavatam, it is described that the something that is above and beyond the normal dharmas, the highest dharma, the transcendental dharma, that which transcends the material dharmas, is obviously one-pointed, ahaituki apratihata, one-pointed, absolute devotion to the Supreme. That is the highest dharma. But that almost goes beyond dharma, which is why Krishna tells Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all dharmas, surrender unto me, and I will look after you. This is very, very beautiful, because that is describing something beyond material existence, beyond continuing the cycle of birth and death. So dharma is very important for sustenance in this world, in this realm. It is for our positive experience here. But if you want to get out of this existence, if you want to get out of the cycle of birth and death, then we must accept that which is known as the Sanatana Dharma, that which is above and our eternal Dharma, not these temporary material dharmas. And that is again and again stated to be as a one-pointed, complete devotion to God. And in that sense, the Abrahamic religions and we have something in common. What I do appreciate about Abrahamic religions is that they have complete dedication. I wish a lot of the dharmic people or the Hindu people under this mass banner, what does get lost there is that one-pointed, real, determined, endeavor to actually unite with God. Because there's so many options, the disadvantage is that people just choose something that's easy, something that will give me a quick fix. I'll worship this demigod and I'll quickly get this. I'll do this kind of yoga and I'll become fit. I'll have peace of mind. I'll attain this kind of, siddhi. I'll attain this kind of ability if I just do this little practice. There's a lot of options, but with a lot of options can come a lot of confusion and a lot of distraction. So I guess I understand the point of Abrahamic religions, and maybe they thought, okay, what is the ultimate goal of the Sanatana Dharma? And they probably just took a little bit out of that and focused on that final point. That would have been fine. I have no problem with Jesus Christ. I have no problem with glorifying Allah. Allahu Akbar. No problem. I have no problem in saying Jesus Christ is our savior, because Guru is always the savior. God is great. There's no doubt about it. The only issue is when you then condemn everyone else that doesn't believe in that. Srila Prabhupada openly says there's no problem. If you are a true Christian, if you are a true Muslim, meaning that all you truly care about is loving and knowing your God, you are a devotee. You are the same as a devotee of Krishna. So when you get to the highest point of dharma, of Sanatana Dharma, then there can be this similarity of one-pointed, determination and complete surrender to a person God. That is also there in Sanatana Dharma. Krishna says it again and again. Man mana bhava madbhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Actually, this idea of namaz that the Muslims have, it's there in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, bow down to me. No problem. It will, if that helps you, great. I will help you if you surrender to me fully. If we establish a committed relationship, just like in a marriage, if we commit to each other, we become surrendered to each other, then I will be yours 100%. Of course, if there's no commitment of marriage, if there's no commitment of bhakti or a loving relationship, then both parties are a little bit like, okay, you do you, I do me. God is the same. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that according to their level of surrender, I interact with them. You know, and there's so many beautiful quotes in the Bhagavad Gita. But coming back to the overview, the Bhagavad Gita deals with dharma. And actually, a lot of it is just your secondary dharmas, your material dharmas. He talks to Arjuna at length about his Kshatriya dharma and this dharma and that, and just explaining how the world should function and why you suffer and how to get out of it and how to understand yourself and the gunas. And a lot of it is just about functioning and in this realm. So, yes, the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna to fight for dharma, but that dharma does not mean fighting for someone who believes in Krishna as God. This is very important. So ultimately, if there's any question, can a Sanatani ever fight for beliefs? Can a Sanatani ever fight against a Muslim just because they believe in something else? Ever. It's not possible, because that would be against. So this idea of secularism and Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it's new and imposed only on the Western mindset. You would think about it. Why would you need to be a secular nation if your religion, already allowed for different belief systems? The only reason why the Abrahamic world needs the idea of secularism is because innate in their religion is the idea that there's only one way. And for all of history, they have tried to impose that way upon everyone else. That's why, to save the others, we've had to come up with the idea of secularism. So, the West trying to teach India about secularism is like the most ironic, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Because Sanatana Dharma is it is the basis and foundation of secularism, of plurality and accepting different beliefs, different paths. Forget accepting. Krishna propounds different paths. Krishna is the one who gives you the different paths. He's the one who says, be a karma yogi, do this. If you can't do that, then do this. If you can't do that, then do this. He literally lays it out. And he says, actually, Arjuna, the easiest one is to love me. If you love me, then I will take care of everything. So please, if you're from the Western world, please don't teach India about secularism. No Hindu in the history of Sanatana Dharma has ever waged a war against anyone else in the name of belief. Yes, we must fight against adharma. What is adharma? Oppression, greed, pillaging the planet, hate, mistreating women. That is adharma. There's so much in adharma, but they are factual, based in our real world experience. We can never wage a war in something that we believe about up there. It's scientific. It's commonsensical. It's anyway. So I just wanted to. I don't know if I've covered all my points. I probably should have made a PowerPoint about this. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Oh my God, there's so many comments here. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. Hare Krishna. Am I Indian? Let me clarify this. Am I Indian? Yes, I was born in Vrindavan. My mother is American, but she joined the Hare Krishna movement, and she moved to India in 74. So she's more Indian than anything. And my father's Gujarati, and I grew up in Gujarat, Ahmedabad. So, and I've been listening to my father, who was a scholar in the Vedic texts. So he would share discourses on the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad every day. So I grew up listening to this, and I actually never focused on this difference between dharma and religion until now. Now that I'm living in the West and recognizing the tension between Hindus and Muslims, and actually, I hate to say this, between Muslims and the rest of the world in one sense. Abrahamic religions are not compatible with live and let live, with the world in general. And we're seeing the clashes everywhere, all over the world. It's becoming really an issue. and it's hard to stay away from it. As an ISKCON devotee, we don't generally ever talk about this stuff because it's kind of, it's almost beneath us. We don't have anything against Muslims, but it's just coming to light again and again when people start demonizing Hindus or Modi and, oh my God, Hindutva, and it's you have real life interactions. It affects you in real life when the BBC and all the narratives are against Hindus, as if they're just another religion that's going to persecute the Muslims. So the reason I'm sharing this, the elections are coming up and it's all over the news everywhere. And I think, well, dharma rakshati rakshitaha. One who speaks about dharma, then dharma looks after us. It becomes our dharma to protect dharma. How long can I stay away from it? And so I'm going to start doing a little bit more of this. What is the difference between, as a dharmic way, going to address the issue? What is the difference between Brahman and the personal form of God? Okay, let's do that. As a dharmic, always wanted someone to address this issue. Thank you, Tirtha. Okay. What is the proof that God exists? Okay, we'll do that another day. Okay, let's do this one. What is the difference between Brahman and the personal form of God? Actually, there's no difference. They're the same. It's like saying, what is the difference between God and his energy? Sarva kalavidam Brahman. Everything, actually, in its totality, everything is one. But we must choose to remain individuals. You can have a choice. Brahman is the energy of God, the kind of effulgence before you enter the world of God. Well, Brahman is everything. Every atom is infused with God's energy. There's also a place where once you attain liberation, you enter into the Brahma Jyoti. There's so many versions. There's a lot, not versions. There's a lot of explanation here that can go on. But in a very simplistic way, the Supreme Lord, God, is a person. His energy, and his all-expansive energy that we feel everywhere you see it, it just infuses every atom. That is known as Brahman. And his localized form, which he actually enters into each person, each living entity's body, as the Paramatma. There's Atma, Paramatma. So there's three expressions of God. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti shabdyate. The Bhagavatam describes that the learned, the wise, the Tattvadarshis, they have stated that the supreme reality, it has three expressions. There's God, there's the person God, there's his Brahman, avyakta, nirguna nirakari form, his energy, Brahman, that's all pervasive. That's not different. You cannot separate the two. And then there's obviously Paramatma. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti Shabdate. So the Brahman form is kind of like almost this anything you can connect with, actually. Nature. You want to call it nature? You can see the sky and think of, wow, there must be a creator. You can see the incredible art in the flowers and plants and just the magic of the world. That is Brahman. Everything is God. Everything. There's nothing that exists that's not a direct expression of God himself. So most people are Brahmavadis because they don't really know about the personal aspect, and they're not attached to it. They're not attracted to a person God. They think it's limiting. I would say like the Sikhi Panth is like Nirakari. They believe in a impersonal God. Shankaracharya, he propounded this Advaitavad, like meaning everything is Brahman, and eventually we merge in with Brahman, this Advaitavad philosophy. But the devotee chooses to remain individuals. Because Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says very clearly, uh, mama eva mamevamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. So the jiva, they are existing bhuta sanatana. They are existing eternally, and they are my amsha, mama eva amsha. So that to us, that is a direct indication that we are eternal fragments, amshas of the Supreme Person. Krishna says again and again, I am the source of everything. Matta paratarananyat kinchidasti dhananjaya. There's nothing greater or equal to me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartati. Everything comes from me. I am the origin of everything. Everything that you see, everything you experience. And then he goes on and on to describe this. It's so beautiful. Krishna says, I am the origin of everything. And he shows Arjuna the Virat impersonal form, this avyakta form. So the point here is that it's actually the same. There's no difference between God and person God and the Brahman. Actually, a really nice example given is when, let's say, you are at a train station and you know that you're waiting for a train. So first you hear the train, you hear that beep, beep, it's coming, it's arriving at the station. That would be considered the Brahman aspect, where you just know there's a concept of a train. The train is about to arrive. It hasn't arrived. You haven't even seen it anywhere. It's about to arrive, and through the fog, there's like, it's coming. You hear the sound and it's coming, but you don't see the form of the train. Then the next aspect, the Paramatma aspect, is a little bit more personal. Paramatma resides in everyone's heart, and he is our eternal friend and witness. He is the witness, meaning the Sakshi. He's always there with us eternally since the beginning. He has never, ever left our side. So anyone who feels abandoned, you should know that since the beginning, unlimited lifetimes, God has never abandoned us because he's always been with us in the form of Paramatma. We are the Anuatma and there's Paramatma. So that is like the train that arrives and you see the train. You can see it now. It has a form. It's next to you. The train has arrived on the platform. It exists. It's there. You can feel him in your heart. You can experience him. Once you become actually in tune and become spiritually aware and connected, you can actually experience him on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis. Those are people who are very connected. Now, the next aspect, Bhagavan aspect, would be as if you actually went and touched the train and you got inside and you see the different people and you actually have an experience, a real experience. You're not just looking at it. You actually enter into the train world. That would be Bhagavan, where you want to have a relationship, an actual tangible relationship with God. So this is there's so many examples given, but there's just different levels of the same thing, right? We're just talking about the same train, but your experience of it is on different levels. So the Brahman aspect of it, if you just hear the train, you hear the bell and you see it vaguely through it's somewhere there, maybe a mile away, it's there. That's like the Brahman experience of the divine. People think that that's the highest, but actually there's no rasa in it. Rasa means like something sweet, some taste, something you can experience, some tangible experience of it. And because it's not a person. The person that is not there. It's just his energy. It's like trying to have a relationship with the shadow of something. I have a shadow. And if you just have a relationship with my shadow, how much are you going to get out of it? But if you haven't, you get to, right now, you are kind of having an experience of my shadow. You are seeing me on the internet, but you have no actual connection with me. You will never be able to, there's no real, you won't actually know me. You won't be able to be in my house, see how I live, know my thoughts. So if you want a very deep, nourishing, like completely blissed out relationship with the supreme reality, we'll always choose a person God. That is the highest. Most certainly for the Vaishnavas and those who are personalists, it is the most enjoyable and is most certainly the easiest. This is stated by Krishna himself. He who is the source of the Vedas, sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. Krishna is saying that I exist in everybody's heart. I am the source of your memory and intelligence. And then he says, I am the source of the Vedas, of all knowledge. I am the source of it. So Krishna is giving us all this information, and yet he's allowing us to choose. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, you can choose, Arjuna. I've given you this information. Now you choose. You do as you wish. There is no question of force, of any condemnation, of any kind of imposition in a loving relationship. God will never impose himself on us. And any religion that teaches us that, fear of God, of course people are going to reject it. If it's oppressive and repressive, the world is going to go towards atheism, naturally. And it's like, it's a no-brainer. If I'm not allowed to, anyway. Hare Krishna. I hope that answered your question. Okay, both can give Ananda though. Brahmananda, both. Yes, Brahmananda, of course. You can't approach the supreme reality without actually experiencing Brahmananda. But what does Krishna say in the 18th chapter? That one who is engaged in a loving relationship in bhakti is already on the stage of Brahmananda. He is already Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. Nashochati, nashochati, nakanksati. Actually, one who is in a very intimate relationship with God, they're already on the Brahman aspect, because they're already almost one with him. They're experiencing him in everything they do. So there's no question of separation there. While reading the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 and 3, there are certain things which confuse me. What should I do? You should join a class in ISKCON. I know a lot of people think, ISKCON only just goes on about bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. But you know why? Because that's what Krishna does. Krishna ultimately says again and again that bhakti is the best path. It's the easiest path. You have so many other options, but not in this world. In Kali Yuga, it's very difficult. It's very hard. We can barely control our minds. So don't be afraid to join ISKCON lectures on Bhagavad Gita. I have to say this because I know so many people are like, they're going to brainwash me, and then I'm going to have to join the temple, and they're going to take my money. And anyway, if you are confused, then okay, just listen to it on YouTube. You don't even have to go to the ISKCON temple. Just listen to it on YouTube, because you need a guru. This is very complex. It's not complicated. It's very deep and mysterious. It is very rich. To get the full benefit, you must hear from someone who's experiencing it. I'm telling you, I am only highlighting this difference after listening to Bhagavad Gita for 38 years. Because dharma always gets thrown around. Religion, duty. So you think, Krishna must have asked Arjuna to fight for religion. No. Krishna has never asked Arjuna to fight on the basis of religion. Ever. Nobody. And actually, you cannot. If somebody's... anyway, I think I've covered that, I hope. I think World War III is coming. I don't think so. Somebody said, you know why? Not just yet. Maybe in a little bit. Srila Prabhupada actually predicted that the golden age is going to start. Ram Rajya, Swarna Kala. This is what Modi ji is proposing. That now the Hindus have to kind of become strong, not be so this kind of wishy-washy, woke, secularist Hindus that kind of have no idea what their dharma is talking about. It's so sad because, most of the Hindu population is just becoming abrahamic in its acceptance of, the imposition of secularism in India. Sanatani Dharma is already secular, but they are so ashamed because they don't know anything about the dharma. So I really, if we want to help enter the golden age that so many acharyas are predicting, and it can happen, we're going to have to get in touch with what actually dharma is. What is my dharma? If I'm a woman, if I'm this, what is my dharma as a Sanatani? What makes me Hindu? Just because my parents are Hindu does not make me a Hindu. Just because I'm born in India does not make you a Hindu. What makes you Hindu? You have to follow. You have to follow something. You have to stand for something. What is it? If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for, no, if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. And that's exactly what's happening. So I don't think World War III is coming just yet. How can you prove it in a scientific way? No, oh, I don't know what that refers to. Okay, who has a question here? Why do some people become rigid in the name of religion and spirituality? Even I've seen some devotees in KC movement becoming so rigid. Yes, unfortunately, I agree with that. It takes udara charitanam to, but like you have to get to that stage of becoming an udara charita, meaning someone who has a very broad mind. You have to almost go through the fire of narrow-mindedness. You almost have to go through it, because it's that kind of you have to progress spiritually. And it's maybe a good thing, because you must experience what the actual philosophy is before you can then apply it intelligently in a broad perspective. Just like you have to go through a pretty rigid education system to be able to then become a fully fledged doctor or NASA, whatever, astronaut or something. You have to go through a very rigid experience to then be effective in your broad-mindedness. We can't have such a open mind that your brain falls out. Like, and if a child doesn't have a useful level of broad-mindedness, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. You have to become eligible and have the adhikara of udar charitana, because otherwise, in the name of secularism and this and that, you'll let anything go. No, we have to actually become, first, you have to kind of create safe boundaries. You have to become a little bit rigid. Every religion has to. You have to protect yourself, your consciousness, your of course, in the beginning, you question, so the concept of andhabhakta, one of the most common, I'm sure when I post this, I'll get so many, oh, look at her andhabhakta, she's an andhabhakta. As soon as you say you support Hindutva or Modi or India in any way, you're an andhabhakta. You're labeled immediately. An andhabhakta is a blind follower. Blind follower meaning, oh, you don't really know much about your religion, but you just follow because somebody has told you. This is really ironic, because in Sanatana Dharma, it's probably the only dharma in which you can question and doubt and reject and accept. Like I said, it's the only one with plurality. You have so many options. Not just that, the actual education system, the Gurukulam, the Guru Shishya education, Guru and disciple education system, is based on questioning. It's based, every Vedic text literally is a dialogue. It is never one monologue. God has said this, or the prophet has said this, and that's it. There's nobody there to witness it or question it or verify it, nothing. No, Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue. The Bhagavatam is many dialogues. In literally 7 layers of dialogues. Everything is a dialogue where somebody gets to question, what do you mean by that? Oh, I don't really know if I agree with that. No, but okay, well, that's for you maybe. You can accept and reject and have a dialogue continuously, just until all your doubts are gone. And then you need to create a kind of a secure framework. You cannot, right from the beginning, when you're in the stage of ignorance, you don't actually know what's the philosophy is. You can't be udara and broad-minded right at the beginning, in the sense that you don't actually know what your dharma is and you're just broad-minded. No, you have to kind of go through the fire, the testing, and really trying to debate with all the concepts and really work for it. You have to have an adhikara to become broad-minded. It's a very high level of spiritual accomplishment. Someone who becomes udara, like a pandita, samadarshinaha, that person is a uttama adhikari. It's a very high level of spiritual advancement and understanding and realization. So to expect everybody in the masses to be Broad-minded actually is it's a fallacy, and we will fail if everybody is so broad. This is the problem with India. Everybody's so broad-minded, kuch bhi chalega. You know, Hindu dharma ke khilaf kuch bhi bolo, chalega. In the name of secularism. That's not broad-minded. You have to protect yourself. You have to be able to understand what is right and wrong. How can you just let anything go? That's broad-minded in the mode of ignorance. Broad-minded means you understand, you actually follow very, very you know, not rigidly, but you follow yourself rigidly. Then you can be broad-minded to everybody else in a real sense. The Pandita is a high level of, he considers everybody equal. The dog and the dog eater is equal for the Pandita. But to reach that level, actually, so amritatvaya kalpate, Krishna says in the Gita, he says that one who is equal in happiness and sorrow, in loss and gain, he becomes amrita. He has already reached a level of, liberation, that person. So don't expect that everybody will be very broad-minded. That is a maha atma. That broad-minded. It comes from, so we shouldn't be prematurely broad-minded. You should be questioning. You should question for yourself. Actually, you should be questioning everything. So I hope I'm being able to explain why it's probably a good thing that once you join a religious institution, that you are rigid in your own, you're protecting yourself. Just for yourself, not against others. It is important that once you choose a path, you protect yourself and follow the path with form. Krishna says, avyavasayatmika buddhi, ekeha kurumanandanaha, bahushakhayanantascha. What is it? Bahushakhayanantascha. Na vidyate, samadho na vidyate. Yeah. So he's saying that you cannot become fully when your intelligence is many branched, you won't be able to be successful in your endeavors. You won't be able to achieve success in any path. It's common sense, isn't it? Yeah, samadho na vidhyate. He says, Krishna is saying that bahu shakhayanantascha samadho na vidhyate. Is that right? I think confusing it. So Krishna is saying that when you have many branched intelligence, you're so broad-minded, you're actually not going to succeed in anything. You have to really focus your intention. So don't be dejected by people who are a little bit narrow-minded. Maybe they're protecting themselves. We need that sometimes, that self-protection, solid boundaries, but it's only for ourselves, in our own framework. We should not impose that on others. I hope that made sense. Anybody else? Okay, I have 5 minutes. So does dharma mean duty? And how do you respond when someone asks, are you religious or spiritual? Okay, good question. Yes, dharma means duty, usually. Swadharma viguna. Krishna is telling Arjuna, mostly in the Bhagavad Gita, he's describing about different swadharmas. He repeats one very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita regarding your swadharma. You should follow your swadharma, your specific duty. Even if you're failing at it, you should do your own duty rather than do somebody else's duty. That's very important. We'll go over that one other day. And so, broadly speaking, it is your duty that relates specifically to your kind of material identity. Material, I say, because everybody's identity is slightly different. Not everybody is a married woman with 4 kids. Like, not everybody has my identity. Now, this is very, very important. But can you just whimsically change your dharma? Can I say, well, I don't feel like doing that. So, because some people, one time somebody asked me, well, I really love to dance. So is dancing my dharma? Does it have to do with what I want? Does dharma have to do with, how do you choose like your roles in life? Do I just choose something? No. Dharma is actually established by God. It is objective in that sense. You don't get to just choose. There's a very, very solid framework of what the creation needs, what we need to thrive. Okay, so dharma is objective. and it does mean duty in terms of action. It's not just a belief system. How do I respond when someone asks if I'm religious or spiritual? Yeah, because religion has such a bad connotation now, most people just want to say, no, no, I'm just spiritual. But like I explained earlier at length, that religion is a kind of it's a word that doesn't have any Sanskrit translation. The closest thing that comes to religion, with the original word of binding, is yoga. So I could, when people say I'm a yogi, it's kind of probably more accurate. I just say I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, because I don't actually subscribe to the idea that I only have I have one faith and everyone else's faith is incompatible. Because if you say you're religious, then automatically people assume that you believe that there's only one truth, because that's what Abrahamic religions signify. The connotation around religion is that you believe somehow that there's only one path. So I don't like to say I'm religious, because I don't believe there's one path. I believe there's many paths. You can choose whichever way you want to take to God. For myself, I have one yoga, bhakti yoga. I'm a devotee of Krishna. So it depends on what you're asking, who's asking, how they're asking it, really, because it also depends on the connotation. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, does the soul have a form, or is it formless in humans? If it's formless, how can we call the spiritual bodies we attain in Golok as eternal, because they don't exist right now? Interesting question. Well, no, our eternal Svarupa is not formless. But right now, our form is contaminated, covered over by the layers of, there's 7 coverings for this creation, and the soul is not just the manaha shashtani indriyani. We are so many conditionings around the soul, the 5 senses, and the mind, the intelligence, the ego, false ego. All of these coverings are covering the soul, so we can't see the form. But it does have a form. We have an eternal svarupa. So the soul does have a form. We cannot see it. But when we cross over, we just read a really beautiful description in the Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, describing how the soul of the attached yogi, how all the levels of how it actually transcends out of this material creation, like what path the soul takes, all the different stages it goes through. For the yogi, this person doesn't even have to believe in God. That's the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. That's the beauty of Krishna. You can be a yogi and you can actually transcend all the layers without actually believing in Krishna. That's the beauty of him. That's how magnanimous he is. That's how loving he is. He doesn't dictate that we have to, anyway. So it's described very beautifully there that we go through all the different levels of the planetary systems. Then you go up to Satyaloka, then pass over the 7 coverings of the material world. Then you enter into the Brahman. You enter into Brahman, and then when you cross over that, you cross over time itself, and you can go into the spiritual world. But when you enter into the Brahman, it's described that you're fully spiritualized. Your original form is revived. You've shed all the layers, all the coverings from the Mahat Tattva and the false ego, and everything is gone. Anyway, it's all there. It's all there. We could do a whole session on this one day, but good question. The answers are there. You've asked that question many times. Okay, I hope that answered it. Thank you. Thank you for these beautiful, encouraging. Okay, I think I'm going to call it a day here. There's so many questions here, but I have to go. Thank you so much for participating. Please share this. And it's time to stand up for something you believe in. Don't shy away from it. It if you don't stand for dharma, then you will stand for anything. That you have to protect dharma to feel the protection of dharma on you. So it's not about being rude and derogatory. You have to really practice it first, then you can talk to others about this. If you're not practicing it and we're just keyboard warriors, oh, Sanatani this, Sanatani that, that's not going to work. The whole point why I came on today with this topic is because I'm seeing a lot of fighting and bickering and like Hindu, Muslim, CAA, this thing that the elections are just sending everybody, at least in the West, it becomes a contentious topic. But first we must follow, and then we must share dharma. That is our dharma. We must stand up for dharma. You have to stand for something. It can't just be, well, I'm Hindu. That's it. I get to enjoy the benefit of the Hindu or the Sanatani framework, but I don't actually give anything into it. If we continue to do that, it will fall away. That framework itself will lose. Like dharma, if you don't protect dharma, then dharma will abandon us. That's the whole verse. You have to stand for it. If we don't stand for it, we'll be overridden by these almost, artificial impositions of secularism, in which anyone can say anything against anything, and we should say absolutely nothing back. That's not what secularism is about. If somebody is actually mistreating each other, anyway, I don't want to get into like what just happened recently, where a Muslim during Ramadan, because he thinks it's his religious duty, went and killed 2 Hindu boys. How can you live secularly with that opposing thought? How can you coexist with somebody who believes it's his religious duty to convert that kafir, and if the kafir doesn't convert, we have to kill him? And sadly, this doesn't get reported in the Western media. But so my point is, we must stand for dharma, not aggressively, not violently, not ignorantly. What does it mean to stand for dharma? Is start practicing it in a very real way. Start reading the scriptures, start reading the Gita. Practice, then we'll be able to protect dharma. It is not called protecting dharma by just posting something online. That's nice, maybe, but we'll probably do more damage than good if we're not practicing it, because it will always come off as imbalanced. We have to be able to live it, be dharmic in our experience and expression and in our lived life. Then that dharma will protect us, and it will happen naturally. Hare Krishna to everybody. We'll see you all next week.